Florence is strengthening as a hurricane in the Atlantic Basin, forecast to become a very powerful Category 4 and impact areas of North or South Carolina by the middle of this week. I'm Mike Naso from the YouTube IPR 365 Tropical Video Update page with the latest on the tropics. Looking at the entire Atlantic this evening, we have Hurricane Florence here strengthening in the middle of the Atlantic Basin. We have Tropical Storm Isaac strengthening, almost a hurricane. In fact, it might be one as we speak. And we have another hurricane, Hurricane Helene, way out there south of the Cape Verde Islands there. And it is looking pretty large and ragged. This one should stay away. Isaac could be a problem for the islands, but the main problem right now is Florence, especially for the United States. Here's the latest on Hurricane Florence as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, also Eastern Daylight Time. It was at 24.4 north, 57.0 west. Winds were up to 85 miles per hour, so it's strengthening, now a stronger Category 1 hurricane. Moving west at 7, and that pressure's getting down now to about 975 millibars. And it is forecast, again, to strengthen pretty rapidly into a major hurricane by tomorrow, and then a Category 4 hurricane by Tuesday and Wednesday, and accelerate. We have a situation here with this hurricane where we have high pressure that's going to be building in and forcing Florence towards the west-northwest from Tuesday to Thursday at a pretty quick rate of speed compared to the 7 miles an hour is moving right now. However, notice after landfall what happens. Here's the hurricane, Category 4, right off of Wrightsville Beach on Thursday afternoon. Here's a tropical storm inland Friday afternoon. That's 24 hours, and it's barely moved. It could very well, based on these current projections, slow down a lot over North Carolina, which could mean big-time flooding rain problems. Again, this is still a couple of days away, so nothing's set in stone, but if these scenarios play out as they are looking like they might well do, we could be in for a serious situation with Hurricane Florence. You could see that even better with the computer models. Notice here that they have a lot of kind of looping around over North Carolina and the Virginia area here. That is not good news because the mountains could make the rainfall more prolific, and the slow motion could obviously do that as well. You can see that sails right into the Carolina coastline as a major hurricane before that slowdown, though. Just starting to get a little bit better idea that this storm is taking aim at either northern, northeastern South Carolina or the southwestern areas there of North Carolina, right around areas like Myrtle Beach, Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington, Cape Fear. If you're on the coast in those areas, listen to your local emergency officials for evacuation notices and warnings. This is from the Weather Prediction Center for the next 7 days. The rainfall predicted, you can see very heavy rain amounts over North Carolina, most of eastern North Carolina. You're talking 10, 15, maybe more inches of rain, with the expectation of Florence coming in and slowing down. Again, this is more long range. We got to focus on the coastal impact first, which is probably going to be a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. And by the way, the faster it moves now into landfall, which is looking to be a little bit faster than we thought before, the higher the likelihood is a stronger hurricane at landfall at the coast. There's the visible satellite imagery of Hurricane Florence as the sun goes down. We had the aircraft flying out there. They noticed a little bit of dry air was still messing around with the center, which is why it probably hasn't strengthened more than it has as of yet, but it should mix that out and become a major hurricane over the next 24 hours, and you can see it's coiling up there as the sun goes down, very foreboding. Wind shear, not going to be a problem. Not going to be a problem at all. You will have the favorable environment around the hurricane, and look at these low wind shear values right over those hot waters like I talked about earlier today. Very hot waters right near the Gulf Stream there, right as Florence is going to be moving west-northwest towards the Carolina coastline. and that is why it is forecast by the National Hurricane Center to reach 150 miles per hour. And that is a very, very, very serious storm. Stronger than Harvey or Irma was when it hit land last year. Now, I did want to touch on a few hurricanes that were Category 3 or 4s for the Carolinas. You could see going back to 1954, Hurricane Hazel was a Category 4 right north of the border of North and South Carolina. That was in October. That came out of the Caribbean, similar to Matthew. Remember Matthew took a track like that 2 years ago? That was Hazel. We had Gracie, which was into South Carolina in late September of 59. Then, of course, Hugo, which was a Category 4 in late September of 89. And Fran was a Category 3 near Wrightsville Beach in 1996. So it's been over 20 years since you've had this sort of major hurricane threat for North Carolina, certainly as bad as it's looking with Florence. So we're going to be watching this over the next couple of days as it progresses. I did want to touch on Tropical Storm Isaac because it's almost a hurricane up to 70 miles an hour. It's at 14.5 north, 40.3 west, moving west at 12, a little faster than before. And it is forecast to become a Category 2 hurricane, but it could be weakening once it moves into the Caribbean. Conditions could be more unfavorable for development. However, looking at the latest microwave imagery, as this storm moves to the west, it is very tiny. You can see there that it has a little core and eye wall forming there. And in fact, on the visible, right as the sun goes down there, notice this little eye starting to develop right there where I circled. You see that? See that little eye? So Isaac might well be on its way to hurricane strength, and being a small system, this can spin up or down very quickly. So if you are in the islands, be on alert, because it could still be a hurricane when it moves through the islands in 3 to 5 days. We still have time to watch it, but right now it is strengthening. You can see that even better on the water vapor imagery. Look at that little eye starting to form right with the cold cloud tops around it. So Isaac may well be a hurricane right now. We'll see it probably become one later tonight. And how strong it gets has yet to be seen, but right now strengthening is forecast as it moves towards the Caribbean islands, so watch Isaac. Finally, we have another hurricane out there, Hurricane Helene, 75 miles an hour, is moving west at 13. It should be moving away from the Cabo Verde Islands off Africa and remaining out to sea. Finally, we might have to deal with Isaac, we're going to have to deal with Florence, at least Hurricane Helene will get out of here. Look at that satellite imagery as the sun goes down out there. Just a ragged but large moist envelope with this hurricane heading on off towards the west-northwest. So the final analysis for this update, this is from the National Hurricane Center on Hurricane Florence. Number 1, there is an increasing risk of 2 life-threatening impacts. Storm surge at the coast with a monster hurricane, and freshwater flooding from the prolonged heavy rainfall inland. While it is too soon to determine the exact timing, location, and magnitude, interests at the coast and inland, from South Carolina to the Mid-Atlantic region, should closely monitor the progress of Florence, ensure they have their hurricane plan in place, and follow any advice given by local officials. Number 2, large swells affecting Bermuda and portions of the east coast of the U.S. will continue this week, resulting in life-threatening surf and rip currents. Don't go in the ocean. You got a rapidly strengthening hurricane a couple of days away. It's going to get rough. You could get sucked out. If you do get sucked out in a rip current, do not try and swim into the beach. Swim up the beach or down the beach. Don't go against it into the surf because you could tire easily and drown. But I would just stay out of the water, okay? It's pretty nasty out there. I'm Mike Naso. I'll talk to you guys next time with more on Hurricane Florence.